I had to fight with myself to get on here. I wanted to get on about 53 minutes ago, but there's something that we have inside of us. We have a little mini version of the snake that keeps telling us, don't, you're not in the right mood. It's not going to come across. Not today, another time. We need to learn to watch out for that. Anyway, I'm here to talk about expecting the unexpected. And really, that's what's up right now more than ever before. It's really interesting because the Torah says, and I heard this like decades and decades ago. I don't know how many decades and decades, but I heard it decades ago. Like right when I first started becoming observant, which I was not brought up observant. I was Jewish, but I was not brought up Torah observant. That happened through a mystical experience that you can check out if you want to know more about it. Highly recommended. Just Google Shifra Hendry, the tapestry, and or you can find it on the blog on my website, The Gate of Unity, gateofunity.com, with a lot of other cool stuff and free stuff and whatever. Shifra Hendry, the tapestry. That's my mystical story. That turned me from a doubting agnostic to a committed observant Jew literally overnight. Not even overnight. It happened like within about an hour. But it was a story that led up to it, and it's very deeply educational and transformational. So if you want to check that out. But back in the day, I actually heard many times that Mashiach, the Redeemer, will come. The expression is behesach hadas, which means when our consciousness is not tuned in, or the way it's usually translated is when we're not paying attention. But das is actually consciousness. Das is a connection of the awareness to a certain level of reality. So hesech hadas means an absence of das. Das is also, das or dot is also the word, part of the name of the tree of knowledge. It's the word that's used for knowledge. Eitz is tree and das or dot is knowledge. Tova ra, good and evil. So the tree of knowledge of good and evil, when Adam and Eve ate from that tree and we were all cells in that cosmic body, what happened was this giant consciousness, this awakened consciousness that this one cosmic being that was one and two, male and female, he created them. Like we talked about with Gila in that amazing interview yesterday, which you really should look at if you haven't seen it yet on her channel or mine. Anyway, at that point, Das, consciousness, this cosmic consciousness of Adam and Eve, being able to see from one end of the multiverse to the other by that original light of creation, being able to walk and talk to God like a friend, having no fear, no shame, no guilt, no death, everything like this perfect reality. But mainly we're talking about consciousness, this awakened consciousness. Think about it. They weren't born from a mother. They weren't born after any kind of breakdown or sin or disconnection. They were created by the hand of God, placed in the garden, fully conscious, remembering where they came from. Like they were in the body, but not wed to the body. Not to mention that the bodies were translucent. They were light bodies, not skin bodies. Anyway, that's not the point. The point is that what happened with the eating from the tree of knowledge was there was a huge fall in consciousness, so that this cosmic consciousness became a very personal, very limited, very distorted consciousness. So back to that original phrase that I'm bringing here, that I heard many decades ago, a few decades ago. First, that Mashiach will come, the Redeemer will come, behesach hadas. So when this mini distorted consciousness that all humans have, that we all hold collectively and individually, when that is removed, when that is somehow disconnected or disrupted out of our normalcy bias, our everyday perspective, at that point, we will be ready for a redeemed world. So what's happening here? We'll be ready for that process. What's been happening? Think back to, the theme today is expect the unexpected. That's the theme of this live. Expect the unexpected now. So I want to talk just a little bit about current events, but first I want to talk about the idea of expecting the unexpected. The way we go through life with our mini das, with our personal das, that personal fallen consciousness, is that we expect the past to equal the future. So much so that it's almost impossible to get out of our comfort zones and try something new or learn something new or entertain an idea that we don't already have or notice a possibility that we're not already aware of. or trust somebody that doesn't already agree with us or even listen to what they have to say. We're very, very, very wed to our perspective. And our perspectives are all different, which can tell you right there that none of them are absolutely true. They're just pieces of a puzzle. So part of the coming of the redemption, coming of the Geula, the great awakening, is Hesed Hadas. It's being disconnected from this trapped, personal, biased consciousness, being disrupted, being open to something new. So if you think back the past 3 years or so, it's been happening in an accelerated way, that every day brings something new, that every day brings a disruption of what we thought we could always expect. If you can remember what it was like 5 years ago or 10 years ago, none of us would have believed, none of us would have bought a story about the world we're living in today. We would not have believed it was possible from all kinds of aspects. Now we can. And that, my friends, is Hesed Hadas. We have been disconnected or disrupted from our fixed ways of thinking and perceiving, which means that our brains, which are normally programmed by default only to see a future that looks like the past, now our brains are like, what? And we're searching for answers. And we're open to the new because we've been shocked into seeing that a lot of what's happening are things that we couldn't believe in and couldn't imagine. So our brains are literally being shocked open, and that is a perfect state of receptivity for what's coming in now, for what's new on a spiritual, physical level, on a financial level. Oh, here comes the sun. Here comes the sun. It's been cloudy and gloomy all day, and I sat down here 5 minutes ago, and I'm like, I'm not going to have to cover up that window because the sun's not shining. Here it comes. Anyway, so what's happening now, I don't know the latest. I don't know if you know the latest, but as of yesterday, Trump was supposed to be arrested today. He said so, and other people said so. The banks, a few banks have crashed and they're being bailed out, but there are an awful lot of banks and not that much bail. So stock market is very iffy and wonky. Supply chains, I go on Amazon and I already can't find most of what I'm looking for. I mean, I type in, some kind of supplement or whatever, and all kinds of different ones come up. And as I'm deciding which one of the many I want to get, I click on one and it says, this item is temporarily out of stock. We do not know if it will come back again. Then I go to the next one, same thing, next one, same thing. And we haven't even started yet. So I'm here in a dual sense. I want to talk into what's happening and into the unfolding of our actual lives, how we can be more prepared. I hope everybody is preparing for the unexpected. How do you do that? I mean, what do you need to go through a day? What do you need to get through a week? Like, look around yourself, look around your house, look in your kitchen, look, next to your bed. Do you have lighting? Do you have food? Do you have water? Do you have, if credit cards don't work, do you have something to use instead? And those things are really important. And I hope everybody's thinking about it. But just all we have to do is get through this period of time. It's a metamorphosis. It's a move from one state of being to another with an unexpected, a place of Hesed Hadas, of open, disrupted consciousness in between. So it's really important to look, just to be grounded and to look and see, what do I need in order to be kind of peaceful as possible? What do I need to have? Simply, what simple things can I get? I can't believe the sun. I mean, I love the sun, but this is ridiculous. It wasn't shining when I started. It was completely cloudy. So I want everybody to be aware of that. And then on a spiritual level, I'm going to keep this one really short. And I did debate whether to come on because I'm not feeling passionate about anything today. I'm feeling like I'm in a waiting mode, but I want to get in the habit of jumping on without thinking too much. So I started waiting for these times in 1991. In 1991, I had a baby, my third child, who was damaged by, the cord was wrapped around her neck. And the midwife that I had in a reputable hospital where my first two kids had been born, I don't know what was going on with her. She was not paying attention, or she was going through a crisis. I don't know. I had a friend who was a nurse also, who was there as my doula. And she kept saying, I'm losing the heart. The midwife was in another room with another patient most of the time because I had someone with me. And she had 2 births. And my friend kept saying, the heartbeats going away on the contraction. The midwife kept saying, oh, that's normal, that's normal, that's normal. Long story short, the baby was strangled by the cord and had major brainstem damage, and then there was no oxygen in the room. Whatever, not to get morbid, gloomy. That's not the point at all. All souls are coming back. But I want to let you know that was an extremely disrupting event for me. And at that time, right at that time, the Lubavitcher Rebbe started talking about how this is the beginning of the Messianic era and how it's up to each of us to push everything and everyone over the line. So because I think the baby's soul was so present with me, and because I had been so intensely disrupted, and because, my first thought, and I was a young mother, my first thought was, wait, is the Rebbe saying that if we do this, that the time is now, that there doesn't have to be death anymore? Is he saying if we do something, if we figure out the right thing to do, just push a little bit, that all of this will end? And that is what he was saying. The only thing is, like usual, like if you've been involved in the Patriot community at all, like many of you have, you know that all this, information and intel that we get, it's probably, a lot of it is real, but the timeline is so not what it looks like. I remember in 2013 or 2015, 2015 was the last Shemitah year. We just finished Shemitah year a few months ago. The Shemitah is every 7 years in Israel. There's a Shemitah, which means it's time for the land to rest. There's certain laws about it, what you can eat, what can be grown, and so forth. It's just the restoration. It's like the Sabbath for the land. So 7 years ago, 7.5 years ago, 8 years ago, all these financial people that I listened to in alternative media were saying, the Shemitah, every Shemitah, that's when there's a financial crash, prepare, the stock market's going to go down to zero, whatever they were saying, get your silver, get your gold, get your this. So yeah, that was 7 years ago. And I do remember watching one day when the stock market opened and it went down 1,000 points in about half a minute. And then, of course, the plunge protection team, they have all kinds of mechanisms to stabilize these things. And they kicked in and it went back up. And it was really funny to watch in an aggravating kind of a way. But here we are 7 years later, 8 years later, and it does look like it's happening now. Like many of these, deltas, many of these predictions that happen that you don't know exactly when they're going to apply. And I think a lot of that also, by the way, is consciousness dependent. I think depending on how quickly and acutely we wake up and activate ourselves, empower ourselves, and become, part of the pushers, part of the midwives of redemption here, including men, doctors, however you want to look at it, facilitators of this birth, that changes the timeline. That accelerates the timeline and also accelerates and up-levels the process so that it doesn't have to be so, using the birth analogy. There are births which are incredibly difficult, God forbid, and then there are births which are incredibly smooth and magical, and it depends on the mindset. It depends on the attitude. It depends on how you flow with it, resisting it or flowing with it. That makes a massive, massive difference. Tell me if you guys are tracking. I want to hear from you. I'm used to coming on also. This is something I'm trying to change, and I'm asking for help. I'm a teacher, so I'm used to getting on and like saying something. And I think that it's far more powerful a lot of the time for us to interact. So I want to know what you're thinking about, what your questions are, what you're wondering about, what you're worried about, what your insights are. So anything you're willing to share is good for everybody. We're starting a movement here, and it's called #SoulsUnited. So everybody's a center. And that's another thing that I wanted to say, that we've reached a point in the world, in technology and in consciousness, where every person is a co-creator. How do we create? That expression, abracadabra, that fairy tale expression. So it comes actually from two Aramaic words, which I cannot say that I'm pronouncing them correctly because I know Hebrew, but a lot of people I'm not fluent, but I know a lot of Hebrew, Torah Hebrew, but I don't really know much Aramaic. But I'm assuming that it's abara kadabra or something like that, which literally means I will create. Bria is creation. Abara kadabra, like I speak. So we create with our words. And that's one reason why all of this technology is available to us, and why anyone who puts positive, powerful God words, life words, heart words, awakening words, consciousness words, miracle words, goodness words, transformation words into this virtual space, into the system, which connects all of us. We're all connected. Almost everybody in the world is connected through this virtual space now. So when you put your words in, correct words, words that up level, words that raise frequency, words that move things forward into the direction that we want them to go, that God wants them to go, that's you being a co-creator. So that is really, really important. So that said, I don't have, so I'm not going to keep this long. I just want to encourage you to not resist not knowing, to not, it's an uncomfortable feeling, very uncomfortable, to not be able to predict what's going to happen, to not know, like I want to travel. I want to go, I'm in Israel now. I want to go back to America soon and see my family. And I don't feel that comfortable flying in, not having a solid place of my own where I have my, where I have the things that I might need. Driving around in a rental car, I'm a little nervous about that. So I have to work out whether that's the correct, vibration for me or not. That's part of my thing. But whatever it is, we need to know, we need to be able to flow with things. We need to be able to move with moving events, and resistance, just like in birth, resistance causes a stagnation and a stuckness and pain. And expecting the unexpected and Hesed Hadas, this open consciousness that allows for the new, that's willing to flow for the new, that looks at the macro picture, not the micro picture. That is an attitude, a consciousness that's poised for a miraculous up-leveling, for a metamorphosis, for more consciousness, more health, more prosperity, more peace, more empowered relationships, more making a difference. So we really want to work to actually be loose with everything that's happening and to stay out of resistance as much as possible. Now, we all get triggered. We all get into resistance. There are two ways to deal with that, three really. One of them is just to stick with it, double down. Another is to try to suppress it. No, I'm not resisting. I'm really good. Okay. Neither of those is really, really healthy. The third is to actually look at what's triggering, what's causing the trigger. Like nothing can trigger us unless there's already something in us. Or as somebody said, I don't remember who said this recently, it was brilliant. You can't get triggered if you're not loaded. So we're all loaded with different traumas and fears and whatever. So when we get triggered, it's a really good opportunity. It's like a pointer to something that now gets to be worked with, that gets to be released, that gets to be cleared. And there are all kinds of modalities to help you do that. And if you've ever been to one of my summits, I'm doing another one on April 18th and 19th, a 2-day interview series. I hope to have 15 or 16 amazing people. Like the interviews won't be quite as long as usual. I'm aiming for about 40 to 50 minutes per, but people who can help, catalyze miracles, who can help with awakening, who can help with tools and techniques, as can I. So, yeah. Thank you for thank you, April. Thank you for following your impulse to go live stream. I appreciate that. I really need the support actually, because my inner voice is just as strong as everybody else's. And I was all gung ho, and then I'm like, yesterday I had a real clarity on, what I wanted to say. Today it was more like, okay, I could talk about that. I should, but anyway, how do you turn on notifications? I'm not 100% sure, but if you put that on my Telegram or Facebook as a question, I'm not going to see it here because I'm using a Restream platform, but I'll try to find out how you can get notifications on every channel. For YouTube, I know you just turn on the notifications and click the little bell to make sure that you get all notifications. Facebook also, you can get notifications. I think when you follow someone, you might get notifications on Facebook. Telegram, I don't know. Instagram, I'm just about to start with. I'm not there yet, really. I mean, I have a channel, but we're just getting going. This is another launch. I've been many launches. This is a new launch. Why is it a new launch? Because do I have to tell you? Because this is it, you guys. Like I said, I've been waiting. I didn't really say, but after the baby, I started talking about what happened. So at 1991, when the Rebbe said this, and I had the baby, I got activated. I literally became a spiritual activist. Like I felt at one point like the burning bush, like I couldn't stop thinking about what else can I do? What else can I do? What else can I do? Who else can I like nudge and prevail upon to stand up and make something happen? And the truth is that I and the people I ended up working with had a massive success. Like we got publicity from major media, you know, national television, um, international news, AP Wire. You know, we got a lot of attention. New York Times, press conferences, and that was all from having an urgent sense of something needing to happen, and being passionate about it enough to enroll other people, and just sending the news out there, sending the word out there, sending the word out there, and it started to take off. So I feel like I since that time, and there's a lot of water under the bridge. It's happening. I sent an email out to my list. If you're not on my list, by the way, get on my list. How can you do that? My email list. Go to, and then you'll get my emails, and you'll know about everything that I do, including the summits and anything else. So you can go to my website, gateofunity.com. Gateofunity.com. It's going to be upgraded. It's a little bit all over the place right now, but that's one of the next projects we're working on. But right toward the top, there's a little image with birds, and you can enter your name and email to get an e-course, 7 Kabbalah secrets that can change your life. It's pretty nice. And also, if you're there and you go to free stuff, but you don't have to sign up for my list to go to free stuff. So first sign up for my list by going and getting the e-course, and then we'll be connected no matter what happens with social media. An email list is private, so that means that YouTube can't like censor me off my list. So if you want to stay connected, which we all should do, get on the list. Then you can go to free stuff, and if you want, you can download the Becoming a Luminary 10-part audio course, which is mind blowing. That's if you want deep Kabbalah about yourself and God. Anyway, so back then, as I was writing to my email followers this morning, it's been a very slow process. Like this started in 1991. 1991, I got hyper tuned into this. What's going on? The Messianic era, the redemption, the political, geopolitical, and cultural things that would happen in accordance with it. You know, together with it. I talked about prophecy yesterday and read just a few of the prophecies with you. Explain some of those. What's happening in society, that this was predicted thousands of years ago, thousands, because this is part of Hesed Hadas. This is part of the necessary disruption that will allow us to download a new consciousness, to stop, to not, you know, when you're rigidly connected to a certain way that things have to be, something that contradicts that can break you. Literally, it can cause a psychotic break. It can make someone sick. It can make someone suicidal. When you're open and you realize that we're in the throes of a cosmic change that's leading to something unbelievable, miraculous, amazing. So that makes it an awful lot easier. And that's part of Hesed Hadas. So back then, that was the time, that was slightly before the Gulf War. You know, those years, the people that I worked with, my group of spiritual activists and myself, we were ultra tuned in to any prophecy being fulfilled. And I thought it was going to happen in 1993. Talk about deltas in time with the Gulf War. And it could have. The truth is that any of these setups, these geopolitical setups, it's like you're standing in front of the edge of a cliff, and with the right amount of collective consciousness and intention and aligned actions, you can push the thing over the cliff. But that wasn't there yet. We weren't there yet. So that's our job. Our job is to get there now and to start to look. One of the many strong suggestions from the Lubavitcher Rebbe as to how to actually usher in the redemption, get it over that cliff, get it over that line into actual reality, is to open our eyes and see the redemption, to see everything in the context of this macro picture. So that's part of what I'm here to help people do right now. And I hope that you're here to help people do it as well, starting with yourself. It always starts with us. We are our ultimate lab, our ultimate playing field. And once we are, integrating new things automatically, it's going to spread to other people. So thank you, Okanaf. I don't know if Nechama. Irma says, I think it's a bit scary to humanity to face the unknown, including raising our frequency. How do we release the fear? It's very scary because our identity is wired. Like it has a prime directive, survival, but it's not survival of your body. We're not, it's really interesting, but our survival instincts mostly aren't physical, which is why if we feel uncomfortable, we can do things that are really bad for our bodies. People do that all the time. We all, mostly all do. Our survival instinct is to protect the status quo of the identity. So anything that disrupts our sense of how we are or how the world is, that's ultimately threatening and feels like death. So the first suggestion, the first step to changing any of this is to understand, to have a different frame for what's happening. Like there's an analogy that's given a lot, that of if you were an alien and you were looking down, you were on Earth and you're looking down, from your spaceship into an operating theater, what you see is not like these compassionate physicians saving somebody who's in an emergency situation, saving their lives. What you see is these people in white gowns with masks on and on their faces and knives in their hands, cutting open somebody who's strapped to a table. So context is, I won't say it's everything, but it's almost everything. When you have a frame that's powerful and empowering and accurate, birth is the same. Imagine if you were a woman and your stomach just started to get bigger and bigger and harder and you couldn't stop it. And then all of a sudden you have these intense pains and you get taken to the hospital and you're lying there and it gets worse and worse and worse. You have no idea what's going to happen. And then there's, I don't have to get too much more graphic, but if you know what's happening, it's a completely different picture. So that's the first thing. In dealing with fear, you need to understand, you need to have a frame that is accurate and empowering. And that's part of what I'm trying to give you here. That's the main thing. If you want to know more about details, I can tell you right now, you can go on my YouTube channel, which you may or may not be, and look at, I have 3 videos there that I was going to take down, but I left them. I don't know if they're in the live section or I'm not, you'll have to look around a little bit, but they're called Next Edge Training. And it's 3 days of training that is exactly about this, that will really help you get a head start in this. So I suggest that for you. And let me know if you have questions. I see there's more chats. Been loving the daily lives and the interview. Yeah, the interviews with Gila and Ani are amazing. Interviews are like, I realize after talking to Gila, there's nothing like being interviewed. I interview people a lot, and I've known for a long time that they're more interesting when they get interviewed than if they just talk, because it's an interaction. It's alive. It's like 2 is always better than 1. For something like, the interview brings out things that you would normally never think about. It's all fresh. It's interactive. There's a connection. But I haven't often been interviewed, and I love it. It's like when I get asked questions, I don't know what's going to come out. And sometimes it's a big surprise to me, and it's really fun. So I'd love to do more of those. I'm sure that will happen. I'm just scrolling up here. All right. So anyway, so back then in 1991, 1992, 1993, we were all tuned into what's going to happen with prophecy. And it could have happened. And it didn't happen because we weren't there. And we've come around. How long ago is that? That's 1993 is 30 years ago. That's a long time ago. But I don't think that there's another cycle coming on this level. I think that everything at this point is not only at the edge of the cliff, but it's unstably at the edge of the cliff. The financial system, the supply chains, the government, people, a lot of people are rising up, the division between people. Plus people, there's something that's happened, that there's been a lot of awakening already. I saw a video yesterday. I'm going to try to post it on my new Telegram if I can find it. It was really interesting. Sometimes I wonder if there are other beings that do things like this, but there was this woman, she kept coming in and out. Like it wasn't one solid video. It was like a few seconds and then off and then back on, and sparkles were coming down her hair. And she was asking, like, do you feel different than you used to? Think back. Are you different than you were? If so, you're one of us. It was really compelling. I will try to find it and share it. But are you different from the way you were? Do you feel different? Think back a couple years. So your level of awareness then. And is it different now? And what about your emotions? Has something changed? What's changed? What about your intuitive powers? Were there things you didn't believe then that now you know are true? Things that you couldn't believe would really be true? And if that's the case, how does that feel? And what does that do to your das? What does that do to your mind? Does that open? And what is an open, truly open mind? I don't mean open to every idea. Every idea is not equal. Every ideology, I should say, is not equal. Not everything is true. But when you have an actual open mind that's searching always for a deeper truth, that's powerful. So different from even 2 years ago. Yeah, so different. When I think back, it's just not the same. And it's not just, we're not the same in the way we think. We're not the same in what we expect. We're not the same in what we believe. We're not the same in what we know. We're also not the same in how we perceive. And to me, in a way, that's the deepest, biggest piece of all of this. In this awakening process, there's not much more going on inside. Like what's inside of you, the space inside of you, is actually just as big, if not bigger, than all the infinite space outside of you. And that's really true. And one of the things that's happening, and this might be, I can't say what's the most important, but it's definitely one of the most important pieces, is that we're being loosened from our bearings in the world outside of us and our trust in that, in its predictability and stability. And we're, nilly-willy, well, whether we like it or not, ready or not, we're being pulled into our own inner self, our wondering, our searching, our emotions that automatically get worked with, our connections. And that's really the core. That's the directional shift that we have to really accelerate, to go deep inside and find more of who you are, who I am. And inside of all of us, there's God. And what is that? What is that? And that's a consciousness, the consciousness of the Creator, that's embedded at the core of every single thing that exists, every person, every being, every concept, every event. And God is not just outside of us, God is deep inside of us. So being disrupted and shaken loose from the predictability, the routine, the robotic routine of the world as we knew it, automatically turns us, if we don't go into breakdown, and if you do go into breakdown, get out of it and come back. It's designed to tune us into our deeper selves. And there we can find God on a whole different level, a much more intimate level. And both are important. And the more we are tuned into who we are, the more we are showing up as who we are, the more self-aware we are, the more self-expressed we are, the more self-connected we are. And that, as I like to say, that's leadership. That's the start of leadership, because being a leader begins with being who you really are. And once you are more of who you really are, and you're not putting on a mask, and isn't there more authenticity in the world than there was? What do you guys think about that? Yes, no? To me, I think there's so much more. Say yes if you think there's more authenticity. To me, it seems like there's so much more, and it's so much more valuable. When we're authentically who we are without having to be masked, we can recognize each other. So instead of having to, be misunderstood by family, neighbors, coworkers, we can be deeply understood and supported by Soul Tribe. So everybody in the world is having the opportunity now to connect with Soul Tribe. And that's also something so incredibly special and unique. And all of this, I like to say that our Soul Tribe is in the front car of the train of humanity. Everybody's on the same train. We're all going to the same destination. But, if you're closer to the front or in the front car, then you have much more choice about which track you go on, how fast you go, how slow, what obstacles you eliminate, what stops you make, what supplies you bring on board. So our Soul Tribe is really in the front car of the train, and we have to know it. We're not here to be victims and followers. We're here to be leaders. And again, leadership starts with being who you really are, being authentically yourself, and recognizing people who are like you, and giving them support, allowing them to support you, connecting together. And that's something that we can do now that we could never do before with technology, with everything. Okay, bottom line, I'm going to end this. But could be that I'll be back on tomorrow. Try to stay tuned, and if you can help us out by sharing how to get notifications, that would be really good. And let's see what we can build, and just expect the unexpected, and see if you can expect the unexpected, even if you feel nervous, which is almost inevitable for now till you get beyond it. Even if you feel nervous, try at the same time to also allow for the possibility that what is emerging is quite amazing and wondrous. And that no matter how messed up leaders, politicians, organizations, corporations, media, no matter how messed up, knowingly or unknowingly, these entities are, there's a guiding hand underneath all of it. There's a tapestry that's being woven. We can't see it because we're in the backside. We see all the individual knots and all the individual bumps and, rough threads. But from the front, think about the Purim story, which took place over a number of years. We tell it as a story. We see easily now the front of the tapestry, how this led to that, how that led to that, how it was all a setup, all divine. But at the time, terrifying, agonizing, disruptive. So we have a benefit. We have the extreme benefit of being able to communicate in ways that no human being has ever been able to communicate before, and we can do it easily, naturally, and by will. So every one of us can be part of this movement of Souls Unite. Start signing on your social media, hashtag Souls United. Souls United, not Souls Unite. We're already united. We just have to lean into it. And show up and bring your friends, and let's see what we can do together. It's happening anyway, but it's really good. It's really good. The easier we can make it, the more supported we can have it be, the more miraculous we can have it be. I will say one more thing. The Torah talks about two different ways that redemption can come. One is called Be'ita, and the other is called Achishena. Be'ita means in its time, like in the natural way of things. Natural, slow, walking, more like the Purim story. Achishena means accelerated, like on the clouds of heaven is how it's described. And that's more like Pesach, like Passover, which was like at the moment of midnight, the Jewish people went from slavery to freedom with miracles and wonders. The way that it seems to be coming out, the way we're told that it's happening now, is Be'ita Achishena, that it's been a long, laborious process, like caterpillar, like really hard, like way too much suffering, like taking so long, even from 1991. How many things have happened since then that we could have, we would have preferred to avoid if we could, but now it's accelerating, and it's accelerating faster and faster. It's exponential. So it's not just that it's accelerating, but the rate of acceleration is speeding up continuously, and that's going to continue. I follow a few influencers that, I started like in this phase. I started, let's say 2017, I started going on YouTube to try to figure out what's going on around here. And, when I'd read something, when someone would quote something that I thought was really amazing, I would go find the person they quoted and go sign up for their YouTube. And sometimes I'd find that the original person got boring, like they weren't at the level of the second one. And I jumped from platform to platform over a couple of years till I finally found some influencers whose track record is really good, who seem pretty certainly to be insiders in military intelligence or something. And, they've made predictions that have come true, even though sometimes you don't know what the timeline is, but they've made multiple predictions. They seem pretty reliable. So one of them said recently, pretty soon, the number of events that happen, like the huge events that happen between morning and evening, are going to be like the number of events that happened months apart previously. And that is what I mean when I'm saying expect the unexpected. We've got to be together in this, and we have to know that it's accelerating. And by the way, all those people that don't relate to you, that, thought you were crazy all this time, they're going to relate to you. They probably already are, even if they don't admit it, they're probably already starting to wonder because things are slipping out. They're starting to wonder, maybe is what she told me is what he told me maybe real, but it's going to happen faster and faster. And people are going to need your support to help them understand, to help give them that bigger frame, to help them live with more peace and more proactivity, and to forgive themselves for not seeing things and not to be completely overreactive. So also I keep posting to my friends and close friends and family, buy some silver. Okay, I've been telling them that for about 10 years and nobody ever listens, but I keep trying. And if anybody listens, that's good. Have some not perishable, non-perishable food in your house. A few weeks worth at least, have that. Have some flashlights and batteries. That's good. How hard is that? So have some cash. If credit cards don't work, you'll want to have some cash. You'll want to have some things. If you want to talk about this more, there are other places where people talk about it who are more knowledgeable than me. But I also, we prepped for Y2K in year 2000. And it was years and years that we were eating those giant cans of stuff. I had a package of nori, like an inch and a half thick seaweed. But that was a good purchase. It lasted till I ate all of it. I had some gold, which I sold after the crisis didn't materialize, which I wish I still had because it would be worth 6 or 7 times as much, even though gold is suppressed. But anyway, invest in things that you can use. And what's the problem? There's inflation. It's only getting more expensive. So I suggest that you, in expecting the unexpected, you prepare, but you don't have to be crazy. You don't have to be wealthy. Just, again, ask yourself, watch yourself throughout the day, sit down and imagine getting up. What do you reach for when you get up? Do you have a solar cell phone charger? That might come in useful. That doesn't cost very much money, if you still can get that. Do you have a flashlight with batteries? A few of them, maybe? Some extra batteries? Do you have some non-perishable foods? Do you have some cases of water? Do you have a water filter? You may not need any of it. So what? I still have the water filter that we bought in the year 2000, in 1991. And it's really good. And I'm really glad I have it because now I don't have to go buy it. A radio, whatever happens, it could be short-lived. It could be not what we expect. It could be much better than we expect. It could be something else. A lot of that is our attitude, a lot of it, because consciousness is creative. Fear is creating the reality that we are afraid of, right? Anticipation and connection, anticipation of redemption, connection to God, connection to yourself, connection to the future, that is so wonderful, that is on the other side of this birth. That also co-creates reality. And the more you're prepared in a gentle way, the more you're going to be able to relax and just flow with things and add your light. Okay, I'm really going to leave it. Is front car in the train feel scary or exciting? It feels more exciting than scary for me. But, it depends on what happens, right? I've worked really, really, really hard on my fear. I'm fear wired. It runs in my family, and I've had a lot of trauma in my life also, which I hope I never have anymore, please God. But I've done a lot of work on it. So I'm much less prone to fear than I used to be. And because I know what's going on, at least on the macro level, maybe not on the micro. Like I'm not a military insider. I don't know what the white hats know, although, some of what I'm being told, I'm sure, is sort of real. But I know what's happening on the deeper level. I know where this is going. And I know that even the people who are, quote unquote, in charge, and even if they're extraterrestrials, which I never really believed, but now I sort of do, there's only one God. And what we do, we're in a relationship with that one God, that creator of heaven and earth and everything in it. And we have a say and we have an impact. So there's a huge unknown factor here that absolutely nobody can possibly know, because the ultimate one in charge is God. But the good news is that you're God's beloved only child. There are different ways that we can look at it. So the closer you get and the more intention followed by aligned action, co-creation, that's called co-creation, you generate, the more influence you'll have. And we've got to stop looking at ourselves as victims and start seeing ourselves as influencers. Imperative. imperative. Everything depends on it. I mean, we'll get there. We'll get where we're going, but the way that we're getting there, the path forward, the kind of birth that we have, the experience that we have, the amount of time, we're all complaining it's taking so long, so we need to get off our butts and start to be co-creators. Start to say, I'm taking charge here of my corner of the world, and I'm here to help support that sort of thing. And that's what my life is about, when I'm not sitting looking at the mountains and having a glass of wine on my porch or whatever, or being with loved ones. But that's really what my life is about and has been for a really long time. And that's the more of us whose lives become about that, each in our own way. You don't have to be doing live streams, although you could. But at whatever level you do take this on, that's just going to be another homeopathic drop of redemption in the system. A good homeopathic remedy can change everything about a person in a very short amount of time. So consider the multiverse as being a large person named Adam, the primordial Adam, and you as being a homeopathic drop in the system. Do you want to be a drop that's going to catalyze the right frequency to get us to the utmost spiritual, physical, global, personal, financial, social, relationship, cosmic health, or not? And that's the question. And then if you say yes to that, the next question is, what's next for you? And that's what we will keep talking about. So it's really good if you send me questions. That maybe the easiest way. No, you can't do it. My Telegram. I just started this Telegram group. I don't know so much about Telegram. I'm the poster on it. I don't know if I want to make it a chat, because that can get really unruly really fast. But you can private message me on Telegram and let me know if you have questions, specific questions that you want answered in future lives, or ideas or anything, and get on the Telegram and bring other people, and the rest of my social media, any platform you're interested in that you visit, please sign up, subscribe, and share with other people. And let's make this happen. #Souls United now. All right, I'm really going to go now. See you next time.